ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
We dodged the bullet, and someone might not be so lucky. And this guy needs to get off the streets.
Police are now looking for that man accused of committing a lewd act just feet away from a woman gardening outside her home. Good evening. I'm Steve Atkinson. Our ABC 10 News reporter Anthony Pura spoke with her husband, who says he wants the man caught before things escalate.
He says he and his wife are still in shock at what happened. They want the man found. That's why they're sharing their video. But we do want to warn you, it does contain some graphic content.
It's unbelievable. It's broad daylight, 4:30. He's on a corner of a street. You know, he's basically on an intersection, and it's unbelievable.
Jeremy Pritchett is talking about what his security cameras caught on August 12th outside their home in Morena. That's his wife doing some gardening in their front yard. Their cameras show a man walking down the block. He suddenly stops. You see him put down a drink he was carrying and then commit a lewd act. What's more disturbing is he then creeps up closer to Jeremy's wife, who had no idea the man was there.
He was within 4, maybe 5 feet at the time. Frightening about the situation. You know, someone can creep up to you within 4 feet and you have no idea.
Jeremy says a car drove by and it caused the man to take off.
We dodged the bullet, and someone might not be so lucky. And this guy needs to get off the streets.
Police tell ABC 10 News they have identified the man in the video and they are going to issue a warrant for his arrest. Jeremy wants people to be on alert in case the man tries to commit another disturbing act.
I just could not imagine if something like this happens to somebody else, or worse.
Anthony Pura, ABC 10 News.
For the third day in a row, San Diego County was spared from any rolling outages as the heat wave continues. In the meantime, businesses that have taken their work outside are now having to adapt to the current situation. In Alpine today, utility workers use those umbrellas to shield themselves from the scorching sun. And the owner of Master Hair and Nails in Ramona says the sweltering heat has been difficult for employees and clients. A flex alert goes into effect once again tomorrow from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. That heat wave has also led to oppressive temperatures all around San Diego County. Our meteorologist Angelica Campos joins us now with a look at those temperatures. A lot of places hit 100 degrees before noon today, Angelica.
That's right, Steve. And the bad news is that this continues. And of course, the flex alerts continue. Our excessive heat is also going to linger all the way through Thursday. So I want to show you what's happening right now because most of you are probably wondering, why is it so warm at night? One of the reasons, the added humidity. Number two, the ocean also heating up, that keeping even coastal communities in the 70s tonight. 73 degrees right now in Carlsbad and 75 in Ramona. But we are under a very strong ridge of high pressure, and we are expecting the temperatures to once again make it over 100 degrees potentially in Ramona. In Alpine, it'll stay in the upper 90s for tomorrow, around 82, 83 Carlsbad Oceanside, and for downtown San Diego, about 10 degrees above the average. This heat wave continues. We'll have much more in your 7-day forecast.
Angelica, thank you. One countdown ends while another begins, with San Diego County officially off the state's COVID-19 watch list. If we remain off that list for 14 straight days, school districts will get the green light to bring their students back into classrooms. But many districts say they're not ready to return and plan to stick with virtual learning for at least the first month. Now, once we get the green light for in-classroom learning, the state wants teachers and staff tested on a rotating basis. Those tests will determine whether any individual schools will be shut down. Now, if our COVID cases go back up and we hit the trigger for 3 consecutive days, we go back on the state's watch list. However, once schools do reopen, that does not mean they will all be forced to close their doors. That will be determined on a school-by-school basis based on the testing metrics. And as schools try and figure out their reopening plans, the county is also eager to get our businesses back indoors. I spoke with our county supervisor, Nathan Fletcher, today about the industry he thinks has the best chance to move back indoors.
And I think out of all of those entities, salons have a pretty strong case because of their sanitation standards, and frankly, because we haven't seen very many outbreaks or significant numbers of cases tied to them, that perhaps they should be one of the first ones considered. But again, we've got to get guidance from the state to walk through what will be the process or protocol to consider things. And then we've got to work with our public health experts and doctors to figure out what they're comfortable moving forward with. But I certainly think they have a strong case to make in terms of being able to operate safely.
And here are the latest numbers for San Diego County. 202 new cases were reported today. That brings our total to more than 35,000. And 7 new deaths were also reported, bringing that total to 633.
And I think being able to write for the New York Times is definitely a way of turning those worst experiences into the most beautiful.
A South Bay teenager was recently published in the New York Times, sharing a very personal account of what distance learning is like for him during this pandemic. Our ABC 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo shows us, despite the challenges, he's optimistic about his future.
Isaac Lozano from Bonita Vista High School says sharing his reality wasn't easy, but now feels proud that he can be a voice for others. The op-ed is titled "Remote Learning is Hard, Losing Family Members is Worse," and it was written by straight A high school senior Isaac Lozano. Here's Lozano reading part of what he wrote.
In truth, I was angry that I lived in a coronavirus hotspot, that my immigrant parents could only provide me with so much, that my middle-class peers were ensconced in their own bedrooms while I remained confined to a skinny metal chair in my kitchen.
In the New York Times article published last week, Lozano shares his struggles with distance learning at home, living in a 2-bedroom apartment, sharing a room with his 2 brothers, both parents being essential workers, and living in a COVID-19 hotspot.
Though we always wash our hands and disinfect items after arriving home, I'm always left with a tingle of uneasiness, like sensing a mosquito in a dark room.
Lozano details the struggles of not having a designated place to study and having issues with internet connectivity, and his concerns about going back to school before it's safe.
There's definitely just privilege in being able to have your own room, just locking it and just shutting yourself out. And that's not really an option for me.
He also writes about losing his uncle to COVID-19, remembering that others have it worse.
I felt numb, in disbelief.
Also remembering a phrase his mother often says, salir adelante, which means to get ahead in Spanish.
I think I shouldn't really be ashamed, but proud and honored that I can give a voice to so many kids like me.
In the South Bay, Laura Acevedo, ABC 10 News.
And we are proud of him. Since the article was published, Lozano says he's heard from a publishing company, a literary magazine, and an internship offer from a congressional candidate. He will be applying to colleges this fall and is looking at Stanford, Yale, and UCLA. Good for him. Joe Biden is officially the Democratic nominee for president. The party confirmed his nomination during night 2 of the Democratic National Convention. It was a night headlined by speakers, including former President Bill Clinton and Biden's wife, Dr. Jill Biden. But as ABC's Andrew Dimbert reports, one keynote speaker threw her support behind a different Democratic candidate.
Night 2 of the Democratic National Convention marking the official start of the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris ticket in the 2020 race for the White House. Headlined by Joe Biden's wife, Jill.
I fell in love with a man and 2 little boys standing in the wreckage of unthinkable loss, mourning a wife and mother, a daughter and sister.
Jill delivering her remarks from a Delaware high school where she once taught, reintroducing herself to voters as a potential first lady if her husband wins in November.
How do you make a broken family whole? The same way you make a nation whole. With love and understanding, and with small acts of kindness, with bravery, with unwavering faith.
Opening night of the convention featured speakers and endorsements for Biden that crossed party lines, with some prominent Republicans breaking party ranks in favor of the Democratic ticket. Now stepping into the spotlight on the second night, a mix of some of the Democrats' old guard and new standouts. Former President Bill Clinton endorsing Biden.
Our party is united in offering you a very different choice, a go-to-work president.
And freshman Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, also a guest speaker, although the progressive Congresswoman rattling rank-and-file Democrats with this.
I hereby second the nomination of Senator Bernard Sanders of Vermont for President of the United States of America.
Meanwhile, convention organizers continued to bring some Republican speakers to the fold, like former George W. Bush Secretary of State Colin Powell, who's throwing his support behind Biden.
Our country needs a commander-in-chief who takes care of our troops in the same way he would his own family.
While Democrats build up Biden on their big stage, President Trump stopping and stumping in critical battleground states Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Arizona, countering the convention with repeated attacks on his opponents, calling 2020 the most consequential election.
This election that we're going into is the most important election in the history of our country. Because we had crooked Hillary, but this is something, these people are sick.
And back at the convention, history is being made. With Kamala Harris tapped to be Joe Biden's running mate, she's the first woman of color to appear on a major party ballot as a vice presidential candidate. And the president was also critical of the Democratic National Convention for having mostly pre-recorded speeches, calling it boring. But the Republican National Convention, which kicks off next week, is expected to also be a mostly virtual experience. Andrew Dimber, ABC News, Washington.
And you can watch Night 3 of the Democratic Convention right here on ABC 10 starting at 7 o'clock. At least a dozen people were detained after shots were fired at a La Mesa strip mall tonight. Just after 8 o'clock, police arrived to the 7400 block of El Cajon Boulevard after reports of gunfire. They say the front window of a business was shattered by some gunfire. Officers then stopped a car seen driving away from the business with bullet holes in the front windshield. The motive for the shooting is unknown. No injuries were reported. And in Oceanside, a woman's son and caregiver is being questioned after she was found dead today inside her home. This happened around 4:30 this afternoon on Ann Selden Street. Police say that the 57-year-old woman showed some signs of trauma to her body. Her 31-year-old son reported that she was not breathing. Emergency responders performed CPR, but they couldn't save her. The son was detained for questioning, and officers are now investigating this as a suspicious death.